Hi. Well, and as I always do, I open with the well because we're going deep. Welcome to another episode of Colli Talks, Transformative Conversations. And it's a very interesting evening that I'm doing this recording because it's different. And how is it different? Well, I've had a lot of people email me, text me, Facebook message me, and ask me questions. I've done a couple of interviews. I'm not one to usually do a lot. I try to hold back, even though I get asked to do them. So I decided to, rather than do the interviews, to answer questions that you have had for me to answer, not through an interview per se by various people, but through this means of which I can share with you me in a real way. So thank you. Thank you so much for wanting to know more and to actually express these questions to me so that I could share them with, well, share the answers with you to the best that I can. So one of them was, Colli, your journey hasn't been an easy one. You lost your mother at a young age and had a father who struggled with alcoholism and found yourself in relationships with narcissistic men. How did those early experiences shape you? Well, the answer really is in the question, right? Because through my father struggling with alcoholism, this is what I learned. But I didn't just learn about the struggle of alcoholism. I learned about a man who was narcissistic, and I didn't know it at that time. My goodness. I mean, the terminology has just become really kind of sort of like cliche now. But I saw it, I experienced it with my mom. At the time, I saw her making sure his shirts for work were pressed to a T, that his roast beef was cooked the way he wanted, that his shoes were shone. I mean, these were all little indications of narcissism, and I had no idea. I mean, yes, it's nice to be clean and it's nice to have things organized and all that, but that was one of the things. And how did it, you know, it shape me? Well, I attracted men like that. My first husband, and I have only been married once, and I'll never get married again. And I know that because I just do. I know me well enough to say that. It doesn't mean I won't be in a relationship or be in love, but I just definitely will not get married. My husband was like that. He was Canada's male top model and gorgeous. I mean, drop dead gorgeous. As a matter of fact, when we met at a modeling agency, and I was working on my portfolio, and I have a very keen sense of being highly auditory in terms of it's a driver for me, and behind me was this voice that said, "Hi, you must be new here." And I turned around and I went, "Oh my God, I think I've just died and gone to heaven." Well, yeah. Okay. Say no more. That in itself was the giveaway with regards to the beginning of, I wouldn't say the end, but the beginning of a major journey with him to heal. So no, my loss of my mother and my father struggling with addiction, I did find myself in relationship with these men, and roll forward 5 years ago, a relationship that I was in, it was the same. Not, he wasn't a top model by any means, but still in the area of, the stage, right? So yeah, this whole narcissistic situation is so true. But, it's not just men, women are too, right? So the next question, losing a parent so young can, be incredibly traumatic. So how did that loss impact your sense of identity and safety in the world? Well, at the time when my mom passed, I went into complete freeze. I froze to the point where I didn't even realize what was happening. I mean, my mom and dad were going away for the weekend. They decided to go and, see a wonderful, you know, musician that they had thoroughly enjoyed together. But it was a sense of when my mom did leave before, that evening before she left, she said to me, I want you to take care of Lenny. Well, my dad's name was Leonard. And I thought, well, that's weird. But her beautiful budgie bird was called Lenny. Now, talk about being in love with someone. I mean, her, her husband's name is Leonard and her budgie bird is called Lenny. So, you can tell right there, my mom was totally in love, maybe too much so with my dad. But anyway, I had a sense that something was different. And when she did go, and, the next morning I got a call that she had had a stroke, I just didn't think about it. I honestly, I was, 14. I was by myself. I was with a friend, and I was like, well, that's okay. That's, she's going to be okay. And then it wasn't until my dad called a couple days later and said, she's not coming home. And you know what I was doing at the time? I was ironing my dad's clothes the same way my mom had done. How, how, how much of a pattern could you get there? You couldn't get it anymore. So her loss didn't really even impact me at a very conscious level, really, until my daughter was born. And then not until my daughter was 6. You might ask why. I don't know. All I know is that's when it really hit me. So that's many years later. So, like I say, I went into absolute freeze and I knew I had to survive. And I lived with my dad for a year after. And at the age of 15, I moved out on my own. I got an apartment. I went to school. I went on to continue my skating. And yes, I basically paid my own way. I worked weekends at a hotel as a switchboard operator and sometimes as a host, showing RVs and showing trailers to people that wanted to buy them. So I found a way. You just do. So the next question, growing up with an alcoholic father must have been challenging. And what were some of the patterns or coping mechanisms you developed as a child that later showed up in your adult life? Well, as I explained before, you know, some of the patterns were with my ex-husband. I didn't know it at the time. I had no idea I didn't even know the term narcissism. And I didn't really ever see him drink. But later on in our marriage, yes, definitely, there was the alcoholism portion came to light. I mean, it was the hiding of the Mickey of vodka under not the passenger, but the driver side of the car. And then, later after that relationship dissolved and not for many, many, many years later, I became involved with a person that, it was in recovery. And there were episodes of relapses. And oh my goodness, it still till this day, it was breathtaking to actually see that person who, when I entered into the relationship with that, I didn't know as a drinker, I knew as someone in recovery. And then to actually witness them, you know, downing a bottle of vodka in front of me, but not knowing I was watching. So, wow, what can I say except that, it really was something that I had to learn to cope with. But then I decided not to because of the fact that I decided that, for example, with that last relationship, that was the turning point. That was it. It was, we are so done. And with my ex-husband, it wasn't even that we were so done because of me finding the alcohol under the passenger. It was other things that led to it, which, oh my goodness. Well, it's in my book and it's a lot. It just was a trail of basically of a wrecking ball, right? But it was becoming aware. It was becoming conscious that these were subconscious patterns and that I didn't have to live it out any longer. And I chose not to. So, the next question for many who've had painful past, breaking the cycle can feel impossible. And what was the biggest realization that helped you step into healing? Well, the biggest realization that helped me step into healing was I could do it. I left my father at 14. Well, 15, actually. I moved out on my own. So if I could, at 15, leave what I thought was a safety nest, surely to goodness, I could leave a ex-husband, now ex-husband, and an ex-partner who were living out that same pattern. I mean, that's just not rocket science. That's just, I'm strong and I'm courageous and I have a lot of faith. And there's just this knowingness that I can do this. As a matter of fact, what was really interesting was the past relationship that I was in. When I went back, not to the relationship, but back to, retrieve a few things that were left in the home that we were sharing, he said to me, "Well, I don't understand. Why are you not coming back?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Well, I don't get it." And I went, "Why?" And he went, "Because you've always put up with it before." Well, you know what? I'm not. I won't. I don't have to. I don't want to. This is not enough. There's nothing that's enough for me to put up with it before and now. So, yeah, that's how I stepped into my healing. Big time, right? As a matter of fact, in my training with Jason Christoff and my self-sabotage program, Jason and I giggled over this one big time. It's like, Colli, come on. Do you really want to keep chasing ambulances? Really? I mean, come on. Paramedics know what they're doing. They're taking the patient to the hospital. You're going to be there, telling the doctor what to do? No. So Colli got really tired of chasing ambulances, and I won't do it anymore. Why would I? Think about that. Why, if you are, why would you? Why are you? That's just like insanity, right? It's repeat, rewind, and nothing's changing. So, moving forward, next question. Colli, you've decided your life, or you've dedicated your life to helping people overcome systemic trauma and self sabotage. How did your own healing journey lead you to this work? Well, I kind of think that I described that just in the other few minutes that I spoke. So, next question. When people hear systemic trauma, they might not immediately relate to it in their own life. Can you explain what it is and how it shows up in ways we don't expect? Well, systemic trauma, it's a system. And when we're born into a system. We're actually a system within a system. I mean, me sitting here, I'm a system within my own system, but I was born into a system, a family system. And so, how can I explain that? Is that things that I might have been and still sometimes catch myself, the patterns, they come from within that system. Right now, we're going through a lot of collective systemic trauma with all the stuff going on in the world. You got the Trump, you got the Carney, you got the elections, you got the deflections, you got the celebrityism, you got all this bullshit going on. And it's all to keep people so hypnotically spellbound that they don't even know which end is up. So then you've got families that they've come from. So it could be from the Ukraine, it could be from Poland, it could be from Venezuela, it could be wherever they're from. The dynamics are in the DNA, and that means that their systemics are, the DNA is vibrating within them. And so it re-triggers from years and years and years and years gone by, things that their ancestors have gone through. So when it's a matter of systemic trauma, that's how it is. I mean, that's how it's showing up. And no, we may not expect it, but it's showing up. I mean, people can't even stay present right now. People are worried about not even inflation anymore. They're worried about recession. And they're not even worried about that. They're worried about, you know, the next uh, pandemic that's coming because we've been told, well, I don't watch TV, haven't for years, actually, since I left my last relationship. Why would I? It's all programmed. It's all media programming that is set to put fear into us to the point where we don't even sleep. And that's why you wonder, or maybe you don't, but that's why people are drugging, drinking, pornography, over shopping, whatever it is, those isms, right? It's just to keep people in fear. And it's so unnecessary because really, when you step out of that, you realize it's all actors on a stage. So I don't think I need to explain it anymore. So the next question, Collie, what do you think keeps people stuck in toxic cycles, whether in relationships, careers, or their self perception? Well, that's a great one. What keeps them stuck? Their perceptions, their perceptions of reality. The old adage, right? As you think, you become, and what you think, you become. So it's their perception about themselves, but it's also their programming from ancestral. So it's really challenging to come out of, and I don't like the word break or release or whatever. It's just to come out of that. And it's not impossible. I've done it. And many of my clients have and are still are, but it takes work. I am not ever going to say it's easy because it's not. As a matter of fact, yesterday I had a message from a woman. You know, it's interesting. People go, oh, boundaries and this, and, you gotta, whatever. Anyway, I think it's a couple years ago now. I was here in my beautiful little place out in the country, which I love, and my phone rang. And I don't usually answer it unless I know the number. But my intuition, my higher knowing said, answer it. And I did. And it was a woman, and she was really distressed. I don't even remember the conversation. The only thing I remember is the message I got from her yesterday. And that message was, you saved my life. Now, my intuition, my God sense told me to pick up the phone, and I did. And out of that came a message that I saved her life. But as I mentioned to her when I responded, I didn't. She did, because she reached in. She reached in with courage and strength and faith for whatever reason she was directed to me or guided to me. And it came out beautifully, right? So these situations are like amazing that these patterns can be interrupted, and we can, get to a place where we just know that there is another way. So, wow, so many people are attempting to do this, right? And so this question, how did my own healing journey lead me to this work? Well, it's not rocket science. I mean, I really have to say that my purpose in this lifetime is about connection. And my purpose in this lifetime is about connection in terms of helping, assisting people to reconnect with their soul. Years ago when I used to teach, I taught at the Vancouver Film School, and I taught at, in Nelson, BC, soccer players at, the high school, and also a soccer academy. I've taught elite athletes. I've taught, it's just, I've been so privileged. But anyway, what I'm saying is that it's a matter of connecting to your soul. And when we connect to our soul, as I taught. It's like when you get in your car and you are behind the steering wheel, you are a driver, right? So you're a driver in a vehicle that's moving down a highway, and your body is in that car driving down a highway. So your soul is in your body, and your body can be likened to the vehicle that when you get in a car, you drive. So we have to really take care of the soul, and we have to really listen to the soul, because the soul is the pilot. And yes, Sting's song, let your soul be your pilot, because it's true. If we really connect at a very deep level, it's so amazing, because it truly, truly is the pilot, and it will never, ever lead us astray. The ego will, but not the soul. So the next question, what do you think keeps people stuck? Well, that was the question we were working on, right? It's ego. It's ego, because they're not willing to, and maybe they don't even know how to connect with their soul, to have their soul be their pilot. So yes, I do talk about hidden loyalties and how did they show up in my life? Well, oh my goodness. Loyalties. Oh, hello, in my marriage, in my past relationship, and not just that, but even with my father. And I saw it with my mother, right? My mother being so loyal. And it was like this hidden loyalty, right? So enamored, so in love, wanting to be loved by this man. And yes, it even goes deeper, because there's hidden loyalties back into my family of origin, in Poland and Ireland. So all these different loyalties that have shown up. And to recognize them, just do a genogram and look at where, maybe you have given up things in your life that you could have pursued, or not just things, but maybe relationships or talent, whatever. These are hidden loyalties. And sometimes, it's to the extent where people will actually die. They're so loyal, right? They're so loyal to family that they will actually do it instead of someone else having to. I've had clients that actually were on the verge of dying because they were being so loyal. So those hidden loyalties are deep. Next question. So, what are some of the first steps someone can take to reclaim their power after years of being in unhealthy relationships or family dynamics? First steps is that you recognize it. Then, through work with someone like myself or other constellators or systemic trauma therapists. And I'm not talking about fly by night people here, because you know what? This is deep work. And, yeah, you can hang a shingle up after 6 months or a year of training. And if you don't get to the hidden loyalties and you get in, you don't get into all the shadow work and everything, I'm sorry. It's just going to be repeat, rewind, rinse, right? So the first steps are, to recognize it. And the fact that you even asked that question, you obviously are whoever you are. And so there are a lot of great people, a lot of great my colleagues that I love and trained with. And, the beauty of the work that I do and that I'm involved in, there's not a lot of competition amongst us. We just really pass each other on to people that can do better in a way that we might not be able to, because we want you to heal. So, next question. You've faced financial struggles and legal challenges, yet you continue to push forward. How do you maintain resilience when life feels like it's knocking you down? Oh my God. Well, for some of you, you might know the situation that I've just been through and actually am in court in. And I can't really divulge much information about it now, but I didn't stop, nor would I. And the person who has created this angst, which is a pattern, is another narcissist. Anyway, we're not going to get into that, but it's really interesting because I have had such immense help through my lawyer and through a collection agency that are going after this person. And like I say, you just don't give up. You just don't. Why? Why would you give up when you know that justice needs to be served? Why would you give up? And yes, it's been 4 years, but you know what? It's going to be worth it. And it's not about the money. It's about the justice. So stay tuned because knock, knock, it's coming. So you've spoken about feeling isolated at times, especially after leaving behind unhealthy relationships and environments. Have you learned to find strength in solitude? Oh my God. Are you kidding me? I've been alone now for almost 5 years, and I've never been in a place of feeling more courageous, more strength, more serenity, more love. It's just so refreshing because there's no chaos. There's no waiting for the other shoe to drop. There's no being in bed and the lights going on and someone coming into the bedroom. Oh, did I disturb you with the lights being on? Oh, I'm sorry. Or somebody pacing upstairs all night long so you can't sleep. Or, oh, we can't afford this. You want to eat this way. And then you make a nice meal and get it thrown in the garbage. No, sorry. I would not trade what I have now for anything. And like I say, yeah, relationship come along and whatever. It's all good. Do I push for one? No. Am I open to one? Yes. But you know what? I love where I'm at. Not just the location because it's gorgeous, but I love me. I love the peace. I love my solitude. I love my calm. I love my serenity. I love who I've become. And I couldn't have become who I've become without all I've been through. So, yeah, you know, it's great. I don't feel like I'm missing anything or anyone right now because I'm not, right? So, I love my solitude and I find great strength in it. Like nothing better than being able to meditate, do breath work, do my yoga, do my stretching, go to the gym. Oh my God. And no questions asked and no answers to have to give, right? So the next question, what has been the hardest lesson you've had to learn about trust, both in yourself and in others? That's a good one. It's not really been a hard lesson, but I think the biggest lesson out of it all is that I had to learn to trust me. I had to learn to trust me to say, not even no, but that I'm not coming back. Yeah. When I was asked, why are you not coming back? And I said, well, I can't because I don't trust myself to not fall into this again. The pattern of repeat, rewind, rinse, repeat, rewind, you know, because it's not going to change because you're not. I am, and you're not. So I can't trust me to not be here and fall into your pattern again, your way of wanting things, your way of doing things for you, because it was always about you, right? So that, I would say, is not the hardest lesson, but it was a beautiful lesson. So now the next question, Colli, you've built a powerful platform with Colli Talks, Transformative Conversations. How has sharing your story and connecting with others through your podcast helped you heal? Oh, you know what? I'm so blessed because I have so many listeners, so many downloads, so many shares. I mean, I'm almost reaching into the 25, I think it's 2,500 downloads, which is huge for me. Maybe not for someone else, but it's huge. And the sharing and connecting is healing me day by day because every time I connect with someone and they share with me the depth of which and what they've been through, it cannot not affect me or cannot not help me heal. So it is a continuum of connecting and healing. And I'm so blessed and so grateful. And I have so many wonderful guests coming up, and I know you're going to love them. So stay tuned. Now, the next question. Colli, you're in the process of refining your message and transitioning your website. What's your vision for the next chapter of your work? Well, that's a great question because yes, I am in the next phase. I'm going to be closing down my website, the current one. I'm actually working on my next one, and it's a beautiful, beautiful website. I mean, I'm so excited about it. It's taking a lot of time, but then anything worthwhile is time, right? So, my vision for the next chapter of my work, well, to continue with my podcast. That's huge because there's been so much demand and I have so many great, amazing, wonderful guests that I want to share with you. And then my book. And I'm not going to reveal the title of the book, but I have a publisher and we're working on the editing at this moment. And oh my goodness, it's so great because she brought something to mind which I hadn't thought of, which was turn it into a trilogy. There's so much there. And so that's a big thing. So I'm scaling back in some areas. I have 3 grandchildren whom I adore, right? One's 17, one's 10, and one's 2. One's going to be turning 3, the other's 11, and the other's going to be 18, graduating this year. So, yeah, the podcast, the book, and my personal life. And I want to knit. And it's not the little old lady from Pasadena. I love knitting. So, you know, my vision for the next chapter is knitting. Oh, and I started to study piano. And so it's my knitting and piano and my grandchildren and keeping my body and my mind and my soul in shape and my podcast, my new website, the book, the trilogy, and my clients. And they're not just clients. These are people that I seriously are friends and that I would go and spend the rest of my life with on an island and enjoy every moment of it. Because you know what? These people rock. My clients have taught me so much and they continue to. And I love each and every one of them. I'm so, so grateful. And I think that's a big part of it, right? Is being grateful. Because without gratitude, our attitude really can suck pretty fast. So, next question. Colli, if you could go back and speak to the younger version of yourself, the girl who lost her mother, who craved safety, who felt stuck in toxic relationships, what would you say to her? Oh, wow. Breathe. Oh, yeah. What would I say to her? I would say to her, you've always known. You've always known. There has always been an inner knowingness, and you've always had a connection to a higher source. Some call it higher power, some call it God, but you've always known. And as long as you stay within that knowingness and you stay aligned in the environment with your capabilities and skills and your values and your beliefs, your identity, but you transcend that identity past the ego into the transmission of who else is involved, which for me is God, my family, my community, my clients, my mentors. Oh, I've got so many mentors. My master teachers, I've got those as well. I'm so blessed. So as long as you stay aligned, Colli, you're going to be better than you ever thought you could be, would be, should be, all those shitty bitty committee statements. Just stay connected. Even on your last breath, stay connected and hold on loosely. Hold on loosely. You've got it. and you're going to do it. You came in and you're going to go out, but it's all through being connected to your soul as your pilot. Next question. If someone is listening and feeling trapped in their own past, Colli, whether it's a childhood wound, a toxic relationship, or deep self-doubt, what would you say to them right now? There is no trap. The only trap there is the trap that we impose upon ourselves through our thinking. So you have the key, and the door is right there. Maybe you don't want to be free, because freedom comes with a lot of responsibility. So maybe by being trapped in your past, whether it's a childhood wound or a toxic relationship or self-doubt, maybe by being trapped, you feel safer because it's familiar. So maybe check into that. Is there someone, somewhere, someplace in your familiar, in terms of your ancestral programming, that felt familiar? And if you really want to move through that, you can, because you have the key. So, next question. Where can people connect with me and learn more about your work? Well, they can connect through my podcast, Colli Talks, Transformative Conversation. They can connect with my email, innerexpression88@gmail.com. They can phone me, 306-716-9218. Just like the lady who called me, who was going to actually kill herself and didn't. Reach out. And you connect through Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. There's lots of ways to connect. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. So if you want to connect. It's all good. So, wow, those were interesting questions to be asked by various people that have sent me questions, and yet not have a host asking me the questions, but me being the host to the host. Oh, it's been an interesting ride, and it continues to be. I'm so grateful that you've joined me on these pivotal moments, these questions. I'm just really grateful because I get to share it with you. And I got to share it with you in a way that was very relaxing and very real. And I just hope, I really pray that you're well and that you realize that your soul really is your guide, that it is your pilot, and to trust it, because there's nothing else that will ever bring you the peace and that connection that you have with your own soul. Trust me, I know. So for now, I'm saying thank you again to whomever sent in the questions, to all my listeners, to all my followers, to all the downloads. Oh, it's just, I know it's just very meant to be that I created the podcast that I did when I did, and how it's moving. So have a wonderful, wonderful week ahead. And soon, like I say, I have some amazing new guests coming up, and I know you're going to love them as much as I do, because they have so much to share with you. So have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful week. And just know you are loved. You are enough. You are included. You are seen. You are acknowledged. Love and soul hugs.